Star Trek Picard Season 3 finale, Strange New World trailer, Section 31. That's a list of things I know nothing about, but it's what our team will be talking about today in Breaking Geek Radio.
Hello and welcome to Breaking Geek Radio, the podcast, the premier flagship and international podcast of LRM Online. I'm your host, Brandon Jones, and with me this week, we've beamed up the entire Ladtastic 4 to discuss all of those things. Who's excited? Who's excited to talk about Picard? And Star Trek generally.
Yes, sir.
Me.
Star Trek's good.
Nick is so excited he's slapping his mic.
So I was trying to do live long and prosper,
and that is not a
messed
euphemism.
up the F guard. Or the pst guard.
Not a euphemism. Or maybe it is. It could be a euphemism.
Or is it? So we're going to start with Season 3 of Picard, The Last Generation. This is the last episode in the last Picard series. Season 3, wrapping it up. We're going to do our quick reactions to this episode that wraps up so much of the Picard story. And I'm curious what you guys think. So we will start with... Who wants to go first? Just curious.
I'll go first. I have a question, actually. The question I have for you, Jonesy.
Let's do it.
Because because I've been watching this whole journey come through, and I remember prior to the release of Season 3, you were pretty down. You were like a downer Debbie. You're like, Star Trek Picard, it's not going to get me again. It's not going to get me again. They're not going to trick me into thinking this could be meaningful. So I'm actually most intrigued about your perspective on the season as a whole and the finale and how it all wraps up.
All right.
Did it betray you again?
Good question, Jeremy.
First then. Did it betray me? No. I would say that this season as a whole is easily the best of the three. Keep in mind that is an incredibly low bar. The analogy that I've been using for this show generally is that the nostalgia is the chocolate or the sprinkles or whatever, the frosting on top of a cupcake, and the story is like the rest of the cupcake. So you eat that good sugary bit at the top, and then you bend the rest. That's generally what this show has been. This season, they were able to actually not only have really good nostalgia bits, but have a decent story to go along with it. I did not feel betrayed at all. I still, even at the end of 10 episodes, I don't like Jack. So Jack is Picard's son that they introduced this season. I hate him, and I figured out why. It took me. That's it exactly. So I hate him because not only is he a mutt, he's that perfectly encapsulates it. He's a fucking nepo baby, and I hate him because of that. And so what they wanted to give us was Damian Wayne. What they gave us was fucking Mutt Jones, and I wish I could show you my notes because that's exactly what I wrote. Right here. And nothing changed for me. They never moved the needle throughout the course of these 10 episodes. But what they did do is give me a very satisfying finale for like 30 plus years of story, because they wrapped up the story of the next generation's journey in the course of this episode. We can talk about a little bit more about what that could possibly mean for the future going forward. But I would give this a solid B. I think it is a must watch for anyone who grew up watching the Next Generation show, with some caveats, mostly about Jack.
So the ending, so as someone who you're what I would call an ending whore, basically endings can make or break a show for you. So given how you felt, you think that the way it wrapped up, as you said, made the whole series a must watch for fans of the show and the Next Generation? No?
No, I think that you could easily watch only this season of Picard and be absolutely 100% fine and not really miss anything. Not only could you do that, they even invalidated so much of season 2 without any explanation. There were elements that relate to the Borg from season 2, gone, like inexplicably gone. Elements related to Q, gone. And so you never have to worry about just gone. You don't have to worry about those things. So I I don't think that anyone has to watch the first season. Like, he even has a relationship at the end of season 2, at the beginning of season 3, that by the end of the season, you're like, where is this character? And there's just no mention, no discussion, no nothing. And so it's really weird. They very much did like a Last Jedi,
like a Rise of Skywalker.
Yep, to Rise of Skywalker. And it's just like, man, these things we don't like, they don't matter. Relationships that existed kind of like don't really exist anymore. It's very weird when you take a step back and look at the show as a whole. And so for that reason, I think it's much better if you just go and stick to this season. But this ending, this last episode, was very satisfying, just watching that core cast and seeing their journey.
So Danny, you're somebody who I know you're a fan of Star Trek, but you haven't had the Picard weekly update with Nick. I haven't really heard much at all with regards to your thoughts on the first 2 seasons. So what did you think of the first 2 seasons, and how did you go of season 3?
Jonesy knows how I feel about most of it. You know what? I really enjoyed season 3. I don't think I agree that the story was good, but what I do feel about this season was that the story was simple, and that's what made it a much better show in its entirety. It seemed to me, guys, that as the show was going on, they realized that what they had was a perfect opportunity to showcase the next generation cast, give it all that nostalgia, keep the story simple, and actually make it a real solid ending and a real good conclusion to the next generation saga. Whereas the start of the season, and obviously I don't know if this is how it actually ran, with those unmentioned parts of season 1 and 2, particularly that relationship that Jonesy was talking about that Picard has, it kind of like, we don't actually need that, and we don't need that. But what about when this happened? Yeah, forget about that. Just stick to the new plan. The new plan is give the original cast a really good send-off, because that's what we're enjoying writing, and I think that's what the viewer's going to enjoy watching. And I really did. I have to agree with Jonesy. It's a B season 100%. You don't have to watch seasons 1 and 2. I don't think you should watch seasons 1 and 2 because they're a little bit shit. This is definitely the best season of them. I'd put this one as the best, season 1 as the second best, and season 2 as the lowest of the pile. But seriously, just watch this season. If you're a Star Trek fan and you weren't sure about this, watch this season. I found it very satisfying. Great end to the show. I really do hope it's it, though.
Oh, really?
All right, Nick.
Okay.
It's up to you. It's down to you.
Picard
I have
report.
not heard you say a single negative thing about seasons 1, seasons 2, or season 3 of Picard. So how did it stick the landing for you?
That's not true. I said
No, I said I haven't heard. I said I haven't heard any negative
I
things.
enjoyed all of them, unlike these guys. I wouldn't say the first 2 are good, but I'd say I enjoyed all of them. This one felt like an entirely different show. It was so good. And I actually can't believe it was the same showrunner last season, because that one really did just go off a ledge. I found this, as someone who's only seen some Next Gen and then watched a lot more Next Gen while watching this, because I anticipated each week's episode more than even The Last of Us or something. I was like, oh God, what happens next week? Oh God, what happens next week? It just felt epic on a level that even higher than any other TV series has been, in a level of like cinematic or epic. With like, it felt like this is what the Next Gen movies should have been, where it balances the characters better. Just the last 2 episodes together work as like a super Trek movie with, high stakes and like flashy action scenes, and like, I don't know. And it just actually, even as someone who hasn't seen all of Next Gen, it felt really cool. They got all the bridge back together. And even my roommate commented, he's like, God, they're lucky they're all still alive. Like, no one even died of like a car accident or before they were old or something. Cause like, especially watching the finale, I was like, I mean, I know they had the movies, but I wish they could have done this with the original series and actually had like a good send off to the original series in a form like this.
What do you mean?
Yeah. Well, I mean, like,
when you say the original series, do you mean the Kirk's show or the?
Yeah, that's what I mean. TOS,
series?
Kirk show. Like they never, like they had movies for that, but never felt like there was a good send off. Just like Nemesis was not a good send off for next gen. This
I
was
would
much
argue that
better.
the Undiscovered Country was the send off for that crew.
Was that the one where Kirk died again?
No, that was Generations.
Oh, okay.
So
Never
the
mind. I'll have to
first
retreat to my
of the
cave
Next
now.
Generation films.
Yeah, but
Danny's
yeah,
like, yeah.
I enjoyed it.
Yeah, that checks out.
That was really good.
Memory.
It even got me to watch another show from the same producer. From the same showrunner, 12 Monkeys, and I look forward to what it sets up at the end without spoiling anything. It's a good trek. Not Strange New World's good, but better than anything I've seen from Discovery, in my opinion.
I would take this over Strange New Worlds, like this specific season.
This would be
Really?
I was close. I was close, but
so you've got to factor in my dislike of children, right? So there's that, and then
Says the father of two.
I love my children. Fuck everybody else's. Like
I'm with Jonesy on this. 100%.
Yeah, watching
You love your
kids
children.
like
I love my
Unless-
children. Fuck everyone else's children.
yeah, especially like
Or
watching
my
Well,
kid.
I think
I
part
have
of it
one.
is kids are written by adults, and so they are written, I think, even more annoying than
They're
they
written
are
as
in real
plot
life.
devices.
Yeah,
What
and
if-
it's just like fuck, man. And so because there were no kids in this except Jack, who did all of the same things that children do, like that's part of the reason why I hated him, right? I was more into this than something like Stranger Things, and you cannot.
Oh, no, Strange
you can't
New
forget about the
Worlds.
nostalgia. Oh, I thought you
I'm
said.
comparing it to other Trek.
I'm
Said
sorry, I thought you
Strange New
said
World.
Stranger Things.
Oh, so you
my
said
bad.
you would take this over Stranger Things, not Strange New Worlds?
That's what
Oh
Jonesy
yeah,
said.
no, yeah, no, not Strange New Worlds. No.
Oh, I was surprised
We
when
were a
you
little
said
less
that.
shocked. Yeah, we
Yeah.
were less
Yeah, I'm
shocked.
sorry. I misheard Nick. No.
Gotcha.
Even if I
you
did say it
prefer
wrong.
Strange New
We're
Worlds
talking
over
Star
this
Trek.
last. You prefer Strange New Worlds over this season of Star Trek.
Yeah, 100%.
Gotcha. Okay. That clarifies everything, though I still don't understand
was
the
like,
comparison to Stranger
who are
Things,
the
but we'll just
kids on
drop
s-
it from here.
I was
I
like, who are the kids on
I
Strange
thought you
New
said
Worlds?
Stranger Things. I was like,
Oh,
Where's
I
that
like
going?
Stranger
I'll
Things.
go with it.
What's wrong with you,
It's-
Jonesy? Now,
I
actually,
don't
I have a
dislike
different
kids.
problem with you now.
Oh my God! How are you
I
so
don't-
confused here, Jammer? Jonesy confused.
He said it. He
No,
said
no.
Strange New Worlds.
You're confusing people now on purpose, aren't you?
No.
Terrorist.
No, I'm not confusing anyone right now. I know we're on
Social
the same
terrorist.
page. I'm just saying I disagree with his Stranger Things assessment. That's all I'm saying.
okay.
It's a
We've
different topic
moved on from Strange New Worlds, Kyle.
Moved on.
Anyways, does anyone have
We're back
anything
to
else they have
Stranger
to say about Picard before I guess we can move on to the news items of the day?
Oh,
Well,
I've got lots of things to say.
You got lots of things? All right, go for it.
I got
tell me
so
things.
it's only a couple of things real quick. So Nick mentioned it, and so we're gonna jump in the spoilers. Actually, Danny, you gave it a letter grade. Nick,
I didn't.
What's your letter grade?
A.
Okay. Shocking no one. I think Nick mentioned, what he wanted to see what they set up at the end. And Danny, you weren't looking forward to it. And I've got some thoughts on this because it feeds into my Nepo baby feelings about Jack. So my biggest problem with this season as a whole, and this ending especially, so I'm going to try and set this up as quickly as possible because it doesn't make any sense. I don't know if I said the story was good. Maybe I spoke well of it as compared to the first two seasons, but there were things that happened in this episode that just didn't make any sense. Like the Borg Queen letting them on board this ship and then freaking out that they were able to stop her. It came off very Bond villain-esque, where she's like, I need you to see me have my final victory. And the only reason that happened was because this was Card's son. So she needed him to come on board the Borg, the transwarp cube. And she was like, hey, this is our son. This is our child. And so that didn't make any sense. She was kind of impotent to stop them once they decided that the power of love could stop them. So Jack, who's been mostly standoffish with Picard throughout the course of the season, hears his father's love for him, and decides that he is going to throw off the robes of becoming. They didn't even give him a name, did they? They didn't give him a cool Borg name.
Vox.
Was Vox? Was that his Borg name?
Yeah, she says it at the end of the second episode, and that's the name of the second to last episode. It's the name of the second to last episode.
Okay.
Or Vor, whatever the name of the episode is.
Vox, voice.
I think it's Vox.
Voice.
Yeah, it means voice in Latin.
So that was my problem with, a lot of that setup for that. But what we get at the very end is a time jump a year ahead into the future, because we're able to save everyone. We're able to kind of wrap everything up in a happy ending. Jack, who, it's funny, they said he's like 20 something. If he's 20, I'm 15. Right? Because he was like the oldest fucking 20-something-year-old I've ever seen.
Oh, yeah.
But
He's like an 8. It's like watching the movie The Breakfast Club or something all over again.
Yeah.
No, isn't it more like 30? Because he's after.
No, they said he was like 20-something years old. And I can look
really?
it up. But they mentioned his age. And I was just like, no, not in a million fucking years. So they time jump 40 years.
Basically Danny playing him, right?
So he's in Starfleet now. He's an ensign in Starfleet, and they rechristened the Titan the Enterprise G, which is again very confusing to me because the F is still right there. It didn't get destroyed. Nothing happened to it, and I feel like they only did that because Picard's son should serve on the Enterprise, which whatever. And I don't think that makes sense for 7 of 9. That's not her story, right? She's the captain of the ship. It doesn't make sense that she would captain the Enterprise. I actually would have enjoyed it if she captained either a Voyager type ship or a Titan even. But my question about all of that to say, the setup at the end is Jack, Rafi, 7, and at least one of Geordi's daughters on this ship. And so, Danny, you said you weren't excited to see what they set up. And is that what you were talking about? Tell me why.
Yeah, well, I'm not excited to see that. But I think, again, because we've been so burned with a lot of the writing in definitely the first 2 seasons and then this third one. So it's not that I wouldn't be happy to see that particular crew in some form, in some shape or form. It's just that I think that was a perfect ending to this season and keep everything ambiguous and have a Captain 7. She's on an Enterprise, all those nice little, well, they're not nice little bows. I'm just happy to leave that to my imagination and let people's imagination work on how that's going to work. Maybe the other Enterprise was rechristened a different name. Maybe that was rechristened a different name to make this make more sense. I was happy to have all those not neat bows, but certainly bows put on it, and to leave it done, to be done with it, especially because we have got Discovery and we have got Strange New Worlds. I'd rather just see those characters now. I think it would undo the good work that they finally did with season 3 of Picard if we now had all those characters from Picard now going on their own adventures. That's my only concern, simply because we haven't had the best writing. That's all. That would be my only concern. Because I like those characters.
And so
here's Rafi. I like the characters. So
here's the only thing I would say about that. So you said, we've got the characters of Discovery going forward. Not anymore, right? This is the last season of Discovery coming up. This is also the last season of Picard that we've just seen. So they're about to lose 2 Star Trek shows. And it seems like previously, and this sucks because this would be a good segue into Section 31, that was going to be a series. Instead, we're getting a movie event. And so where before we would have had...
well, they did announce Starfleet Academy also. Sorry.
Where before we would have had another series to fill one of those gaps, we've lost one. So this naturally would have been a good show to fill that void, but...
Okay. Yeah, that makes... I must admit, in my ignorance, I did not know that Discovery was the last one. I thought that was going to be a running forwards. Okay. Well, then the opportunity's there. If it does happen, I just hope they take a little bit more care with the writing. That's all. That would be it, because I do like those characters.
Here was my thought on that. I kind of thought that the fact that they did not use Seven's catchphrase for what they were going to say when they started the ship was almost like, we've set this thing up, and here, whoever is going to take it over, we're not going to burden you with this thing. We're going to give it to you to figure out whatever that's going to be, which I kind of like. Like that was my headcanon.
Maybe think of Captain America instantly, who never said Avengers Assemble until
the very end.
Last film. Yeah, the very end of the last film where he's like Avengers, and they cut him off. It felt like that. Cool. Well, it's interesting. Terry Matalas, or his name is spelled something similar to that, is the showrunner on this. He's been campaigning long before this episode for a show called Star Trek Legacy, to a point where the actors have brought it up. And that's one of the last lines Seven says is something about their legacy. So I wonder if that was already planned, or Paramount's at least like biting a little bit already before they air the episode. Because then they also have a post-credit scene, which sets up, again, kind of basically undoes Picard season 2, but sets up the return of Q again.
There was only one good thing about that entire season, and it was John Delancey saying, "You matter," right before he died, and all of this stuff. Like, I love that, and it's like, no, fuck that too. Which, fine, I guess, but man, I have one more question before we move on, and I would love if somebody could answer this for me.
Have a good show, everybody.
Bye. Yeah, Jammer.
Thanks for all your contributions.
Last question about this. Where the fuck did the other Borg go? So we had Dr. Girardi set up at last season as the Borg Queen. She was going to take the other Borg. She's like, hey, we're going to do this stuff. And in this season, they say, yeah, we haven't seen Borg in 10 years. What?
Yeah.
I don't know why the 10 years line. That doesn't make any sense unless they were, but the Terry, I'm just going to call him that now because I don't know how to pronounce his last name, the showrunner, defends himself all the time on Twitter. He's actually really fun to follow, even if his logic isn't always sound. But he said, first of all, it's entirely different Borg. Shaw references. He's like, I don't know about that bullshit with these other Borg. And then he's like, they're still off exactly where they were left off, defending that corner of the galaxy from whatever entity tried to come through at the end of season 2. That was
Wouldn't you call them?
What?
Wouldn't you call them?
Oh, yeah.
As soon as you knew that it was a Borg,
when you said that.
Wouldn't you Captain Marvel, like, hit the button, hit the thing?
I feel like it was too late by the time I knew it was Borg. But
they have transwarp tunnels that they could come through space with incredibly fast, instantly almost.
Yeah, that's a lot of it is literally uncanon. It's very much Rise of Skywalker, only it's better than the previous ones. Where it's like, let's pretend a lot of this never happened, including Q retiring.
Hence my question on the Discord channel about canon and why is it so difficult for these shows to not maintain canon, and why do they change it and ignore it and all that kind of stuff? And that was a genuine question. So if you are listening,
did you see my answer?
Discord channel, I did. Yeah, I don't know if you were referring to that particular show, or because I was thinking more in general canon as a whole from beginning to end, not just one episode, not one show. And you had some dig about my age or something, you arsehole.
What? I think most between Star Trek and Star Wars, and probably Doctor Who, I would say that those are the shows that are still going on right now that have the most canon. And so I think that that's the reason why. That it's just decades and decades of stuff where for them to try to stick to it is just too arduous.
Which is crazy because my roommate was watching part of one with me and we watched Strange New Worlds. And he's like, why is this happening? I'm like, well, this guy used to be a robot, but he's not really a robot anymore. I'm just explaining all sorts of stuff. And he's like, God, this is so confusing and weird. And I was like, yeah, that's because they're trying to keep, it felt like they tried to keep all the canon except for season 1 and 2 more than anything.
He used to be a robot on Strange New Worlds.
No, we watched Strange New Worlds together, and then we were watching Picard.
Oh,
and
then you were watching
Data
Picard,
was there, and I'm like, well, he used to be a full robot, but like now
So I guess my question should have been a bit. I understand when we change characters and stuff. I kind of don't mind that when we want to take a character in a new direction, and to do that and to give the actor something to get their teeth into and to make it interesting, we might need to ignore some of the things they did in the past. But I don't think it's necessary or difficult to stick to canon when it comes to how things work and how things run on a galaxy-wide thing, not characters that live in that galaxy, but the rules of that universe. For example, Star Wars one was the tracking things in hyperspace and stuff. There was answers around that, or ramming spaceships into other things and things. There was a reason why that couldn't be done, and now there's a reason why it can be done. So it's those kind of canon things that I don't think have to get lost in the annals of time, Jonesy. I think if someone says lightsabers are made by this, then that is easy to stick to and not change. But characters, I get. I understand that, especially when it comes to...
What was the thing as it related to Star Trek?
Well, that's as we're talking about, I wasn't expecting to talk about that particular thing tonight, and I was trying to think of...
I think the example from Discord was, I think you guys were talking about Klingons and how they appear.
Yes.
Oh.
Yeah. I actually like that one.
Well, that was something that triggered it. Sorry, Jones. That was what triggered the question, for sure.
I like the Klingon one specifically because we've gotten 3 different looks for Klingons. And so even the appearance between the original series and how people want them to look now, like the accepted appearance of them, changed. And there's this fantastic line in Deep Space Nine when they go to the space station. It's the Tribble episode that they redo. See if you remember this one, where the Deep Space Nine crew goes back and does that. And I don't know if you remember, they were like, oh, the Klingons are here. And Chief O'Brien looks at Worf and they're like, what? Where are the Klingons? And they're like, they're over there. And it's just like white dudes with the like Ming the Merciless, like with it. And so he's like, those are Klingons? What happened? He goes, we don't talk about it. And that's it. That is the only explanation you get for why it looks like that then and to Worf now. And so I think it's a hilarious moment that stuck with me decades later.
Yeah, I remember the episode for sure. Yeah.
Depending on what production designer you have and who the writer is, just pick your version of the Klingons you like.
I'm okay with
that.
But
what if they changed how Klingons behaved, and what if they changed their whole hierarchy system and all that kind of stuff? That wouldn't be acceptable, right? That's what I'm talking about. I'm okay with makeup changes. I get that shit changes with technology, but if you now came in and they weren't, let's say, a warrior race, they were a completely other kind of race, that would be a complete change in canon, right? You wouldn't say, oh,
it depends on how they did it.
About that 'cause it's 30 years old.
Yeah, I don't think they would change it that much, but it would depend on what they did, right? So like you have something similar to that with the Romulans and the Klingons. I'm sorry, the Romulans and the Vulcans. And so I think you could just as easily say like, well, these are these Klingons over here versus these Klingons over here. These peace-loving Klingons versus the warrior.
Two different tribes, like Neanderthals and Homo sapiens. We're still humans, but we went off on a different path. Is that what you mean?
Yeah. Something like that.
Yeah, and I'm okay with that if that was actually explained rather than just throwing it at us. And I guess all it comes down to, we haven't seen that episode of Strange New Worlds yet. Maybe they do mention something as a throwaway comedy line, just like Worf does in that episode of Deep Space Nine, which I also remember.
I 100% expect it.
Yeah. Yeah, especially with how good Strange New Worlds writers have been with making it, I'm not going to say comedy, but certainly having a light-hearted approach to stuff like that. Yeah, I look forward to it. But the canon discussion is one that we could probably have for a long time, and we're already quite a way into this one.
Okay. Moving on to Section 31?
Yeah.
All right. Section 31. We've got Oscar winner Michelle Yeoh. She's here to have her revenge. So I don't know if you guys remember how long it has been. It's been since 2018 that we've been hearing about a Section 31 show. We were just privileged to get an announcement this past week where Paramount Plus, P Plus, as I call them, they're going to have a Section 31 movie, like a movie event, which I think is kind of a fascinating choice. There's a part of me that feels like Paramount Plus, P Plus missed an opportunity because, as we all know, Michelle Yeoh is coming off her hottest year ever, right? So Everything, Everywhere, All at Once, Oscar winner for Best Picture, Oscar winner for Best Actress, which she won. And so they've kind of lost the opportunity to have a series starring Academy Award winner Michelle Yeoh, but we've still got this movie event coming up. So I guess the first question I have for you all is, are you excited about this, given what you've seen from Discovery? And also, what the fuck took so long?
I think the Oscars, what took so long? I think her being hot is what reinvigorated Paramount to be like, hey, we should go ahead and follow through with what we were doing, even if it's in a shorter format. There's something I'd rather see in a shorter format because, I don't know, I was never a big fan of the Section 31 stuff they were doing in the context of Discovery Season 2.
What about Deep Space Nine?
I haven't seen Deep Space Nine yet. But this would be very much a Discovery spinoff, and I'm assuming they would set it around this time of Season 2, showing maybe what her, maybe even the return of Ash Tyler were doing when we weren't seeing them, and before she ended up going, obviously before she went to the future, and then before she went back to the mirror universe or whatever the doorway did for her.
Okay. Danny, what do you think?
Yeah, I'm not. I must admit, mate. When that whole story was happening, what season of Discovery was it where it was introduced and we met the character the first time? Season. So
she was head of Section 31 in Season 2, or she was part of Section 31 in Season 2.
Yeah, I found that I didn't like that character. I didn't like how she was constantly backstabbing and constantly being a bit of a bitch. I didn't enjoy that character very much. But Jonesy, you just reminded me how they were heavy, or sometimes heavy, in certain episodes of Deep Space Nine. I would be more interested in that history and that story than I.
Uh-oh.
Annoyed me that she was such a bitch all the time, and I'm just like, I'm not excited about this. Unfortunately, I don't care. I get the trailer. Maybe you guys tell me a bit more when you watch the show or the film. But no, this hasn't floated my boat whatsoever. I wasn't wanting this. This is not something I wanted. I hope I'll be pleasantly surprised, but it's not something I wanted. Don't like that character, or didn't like that character.
Okay. And so for my part, I do like Philippa Georgiou, like this kind of conflicted mirror universe character, this person that was basically evil, that we've made less evil as time has gone on. I liked her relationship with Michael Burnham, and so there's a part of me that does not think that will feature in this feature. So I'm curious what they will decide to do instead. I agree with you, Nick, about Ash Tyler. It'll be interesting because I remember when they first talked about this, like that was going to be the show.
Mm-hmm.
It was going to be the two of them. And so for the vibe that I got from the show, I was hoping that it would be a little bit more Andor-esque. So a character that wasn't necessarily, like, they were a little bit dirtier, a little bit grittier than your typical Star Trek character. And so I thought that would be more fun. So we're going to get this. It's going to come from Craig Sweeney serving as the writer, and Olatunde Osanami. He's going to direct the film. And these are folks that have worked on Discovery in the past. So I don't think it's going to veer too far from that. Yeah, it does. Just to get back some veterans from the series. So in terms of narrative and visually, I expect it to be the same. And I guess there's a part of me that I've probably soured a little bit more on Discovery as time has gone on, mostly because I feel like they have wasted some opportunity in some of their where they are in the timeline, right? They exist in the future now, and they haven't taken the opportunity to use that opportunity to do like just crazy, interesting things. And it feels like really what they were trying to do was just get away from the criticism of them mucking up canon. And so from that perspective, I'm a little worried. But I'm also hoping that Michelle Yeoh wouldn't sign up for something that was less than stellar. So,
do you think she was under contract?
Probably not anymore for that Usually that kind of option would have gone away. Yeah.
Well, the reason why it made me wonder, because you mentioned the fact that she's Oscar winner now, is that she was under option to play this character again in one way, shape, or form, and Paramount weren't sure if it was going to be a success or not. And now they've traded in that marker because they see benefit for it.
I don't think that's how actor contracts generally work, like that long of being locked into something. But she must have seen something in the project, maybe even since the beginning, and been like, "Oh yeah, we're still doing that, but I have less time to commit to it." Sure,
let's make a movie. Yeah. I'm curious. It's fascinating to me that we are going to get a Paramount Plus movie event before we get a wrap up or another film to the Abrams flicks. That's hilarious to me. So. Yeah, we'll see. Moving on to some Stranger Things. All
Strange New Worlds. Unless you did
Strange New Worlds. Again. Did I say Stranger Things? Oh my god!
Yeah,
you did.
Oh no!
Unless you meant
that
Stranger
was on
Things.
purpose. No,
because we're moving into Stranger Things in the galaxy. Okay,
that I did do on purpose. Jesus, that worried me for a second. Yeah. We're moving on to Stranger Things. So. No, I told it that time I did. The first time was not on purpose at all. That was just me mishearing Nick. So we got a trailer drop for Strange New Worlds season 2. Looks fantastic. I'm very excited. So we got everybody in the crew back this season. We're going to see some traditional looking Klingons. We're going to get a little bit more Kirk. Not as excited about that. And it's weird. It's like you see somebody like Chris Pine and you're like, yeah, that's Kirk. He just oozes the charisma that I think is Kirk. I don't feel any of that off of, I should have had the actor's name up as I was thinking. And I think part of it, I don't think it's just the writing, but there was this one thing that stuck out to me. There's a scene in the trailer where he's trying to go through a revolving door. And she's like, "Oh, you don't have revolving doors?" He's like, "I'm from space." It's like, no.
Yeah.
There is a very specific scene in Star Trek 4 where he's talking to the doctor and he's like, "I'm from Iowa. I only work in space." Right? So like even the spirit of the character is missing from this version of him. It's like, I got it. I'm being pedantic and annoying and just incredibly fucking nerdy. But they have revolving doors in Iowa. Like he's a farm boy. I just that stuck out to me as being strange.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was thinking. That it was a gag that didn't seem to fit even in Strange New Worlds. It was okay. What we have in some sort of alternate show where Kirk's a bumbling buffoon rather than just a charismatic guy.
My favorite tweet about that was someone being like, "He's the best and brightest of Starfleet, and he can't." He's one of Starfleet's best ever captains, and he can't use the door.
Yeah, there's what's the line from even J.J. Abrams? He's like, "You've got genius level intellect," or something like that. Like they blow this guy up talking about how intelligent he is, and it's like revolving door.
Like your aptitude test was like above the common off. Yeah, something. Whatever. I could see the unless like it looks like a time travel episode. Maybe revolving doors aren't things in Ohio in the 23rd century.
Iowa,
excuse me. And I could see him also taking that. I could also see. I could also see him, changing that perspective. Like when he's older, like the movies they're basically like pining back for like in one of the movies at least they're like, what life would we have led? Like none of us are married. Kind of the opposite of the end of Picard. And he's like, well, I just work in space. Whereas like young Picard is like, no, dude. I mean, God, young Kirk's like, no, I'm from space. I don't know. I'm just making excuses.
Yeah, don't make excuses.
I'm filling my head canon with the. But yeah, I'm glad to see that character back. But yeah, I didn't like the performance of that actor as Kirk, and yeah, he seemed really dumb. But I always like seeing more Kirk.
Yeah, and I think the thing that made me mostly fine with it was the idea that what we were seeing from Kirk was an alternate was like not a time travel episode, but I think like
sort of alternate.
Yeah,
future.
It was like an alternate history timeline. I was like, yeah, that's fine as long as we never see this person again. And here he is again. So Paul Wesley is the actor's name.
Okay.
Yeah, no, doesn't do it for me.
Yep.
Danny, what else? Any other thoughts?
Yeah, the trailer got me excited. I mean, we didn't see much about the episodes, which I'm super stoked about. But what we did see was some returning characters looking like they're having some development. I can't remember the character's name, but the one that is growing closer and closer with Spock. She's in the medical side of things. Sorry for my ignorance.
Chapel?
So I don't know, whoever the one
There's
that got
Chapel.
close to
Yeah,
Spock.
no, that is. Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm enjoying the fact that they're leaning into those relationships and that they're having some fun with the characters again, including that the great last line where Spock's sitting in the chair. I'm just really excited about it. I love it. I just think it looks like it's going to be a whole heap of fun again. I hope they manage to pull off the success of last season with every episode being really good and some just being better than others. So yeah, the trailer got me excited. When's the launch date? When's episode 1?
June 15th, June 21st.
Yeah, so not
something
too
like
far
that.
away, just a couple of months away.
It's our next show for Trek. I mean, and they didn't show a clip from it. There's an episode I'm very interested in.
Crossover?
Yeah, the crossover with with Lower Decks, which is actually directed by Jonathan Frakes, in addition to being, and I believe they're going to be animated.
Yeah.
Still, like where it's going to be Lower Decks crossover with Strange New Worlds, and the Lower Decks characters are animated, and so there must be a time travel event too of some sort for that to happen, and that just sounds like the strangest thing, which is very fitting.
That sounds like a strange thing that Jones was referring to earlier.
It's kind of making a little pun there too.
His planned and scripted comment that he meant to say about strange things.
That was totally planned. And so at the very least on that crossover episode, we're getting Tawny Newsome, who's returning as Beckett Mariner, and Jack Quaid, who's coming back as Brad Boimler. And so there's like the way that it's written, they said that they're joining the USS Enterprise, which
the years would be
that's going to be exciting.
Yeah.
Who cares? Yeah. I think you're right. It'll probably be a time travel episode, but
it might even be like Deep Space Nine episode, only they have the crew and stuff together. Yeah. They don't have to use old footage. They could just be like, oh yeah, we've been, lower deckers on the Enterprise for years and we've just never met you guys.
That's going to be exciting. That's going to be exciting. All right. So
Star Trek Forever.
Star Trek Forever. Lower Decks Forever. I'm sad to see Picard finally meet its promise I was going to say the promise, right? The promise of what the show, like if this had been what the show was going to be the entire time, like I would have been far more excited, but here we are. So like, hold on. I gotta do my little here. I've got my little Picard there and I've got my
nice
Enterprise E right there. Before we sign off, I'm really curious. What's you all's favorite Star Trek ship?
Enterprise 1701.
Which one?
Either just the 1701 or the A, because it was just the 1701 in like Strange New Worlds and the original series.
Okay. Danny.
It's just I always say why it's skinny and sleek. I don't like these fat Enterprises. Anyway, there you go.
I agree.
Don't be fat. Spaceship.
No, he's right, because it's
the
like
D is so big.
The original. The D is like, that's very 80s. It's very round and very 80s. The E is like, okay, what if actual military, right? So you like svelted this thing up.
Hold on. Like, did we really just let two people say the D is so big? Without anyone laughing? Without anyone? Oh,
I didn't think
I was gonna let it go. I was
just sitting basking in the glory, assuming you were talking about me.
The glory of the D. I like the F because the F is like, well, what if military? I'm sorry, the E is what if military, and the F is like, well, what if we made the E pregnant? Like, what? Why does it look like that? And that's why I kind of was not a fan of renaming the Titan the Enterprise, because it's just, I don't like it.
I interrupted you, Danny.
Anyway.
What's your favorite ship? Doesn't even have to be an Enterprise, obviously.
I like the G.
Do you really?
Yeah.
Why? I'm going to judge you now.
Big, and I like it big. I have no opinion on jokes aside. I have no opinion on my favorite Enterprise ship. No,
it doesn't have to be Enterprise
ship.
Just Star Trek generally. Yeah, anyone.
Oh, I like Millennium Falcon. I like that one. Does that count?
You fucker.
Stranger things have happened.
I've got two. These are my two favorites. I've got the Defiant over here. I've got my Enterprise E over here. These are my favorites. All right. That's the show, everybody. So, this show, Bring Geek Radio, the podcast, is boldly going. It's also produced by Kyle Malone, who's boldly going. And if you like what you heard, do all the socials, like, rate, comment, subscribe, share. We would definitely appreciate it. Also, LRM Online and the Genreverse Podcast Network. Check them out. They've got other great content for you to listen, read, watch, and do all of those things. What are we doing next week? Do we know? I don't know. Do we have a topic? I was going to plug the topic. I don't know what we're doing. But come back anyway, because whatever we're doing, we're going to be having a great time. But other than that, we will catch you on the next one. Hasta lasagna.
Don't get any on ya.